Why, hello, everyone. Hello. If you don't know this voice by now, then why are you watching this video on YouTube or listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music Podcast? What is up, guys? It is James, aka Jimmypancakes20, back here to do a new episode of the Jimmypancakes20 show. This is episode 17. This is the third, aka the final part of our Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2009 history video, where we're going to wrap it up with talking about the two shows. If you guys have missed part 1 or part 2, I recommend checking those out before you come and watch or listen to part 3, where we talked about the first 3 mazes in part 1. Then in part 2, we talked about the last maze, the Terror Tram, and the 3 scare zones. And then in this episode 17, aka the third part of the Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2009 history video / podcast, we're going to talk about the two shows. So, that's what I wanted to let people know. So, of course, I'm not here alone. Before I introduce the person that is doing this podcast with me, I just wanted to let you guys know the reason why you are not seeing the images of what we are talking about is because my laptop is doing an update, and also the website that I use to record my screen on my laptop is doing an update. So fortunately, we had to do an audio recording through my phone, and then I'm going to put an image of a photo up for YouTube as a thumbnail so you guys could find the video. So that is the reason why it's only our voices today and not showing the screen or anything. And I will be back in the future, back with my face cam and all that. I am working on getting some new stuff to make the videos much better. So that will be coming in the future. So I wanted to get all that out of the way. So now let me introduce my co-host. You know her, you love her, my mom, Marcia. So Mom, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
So, if you guys are ready, Mom, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
And just to let you guys know, if you're hearing my co-host Marcia coughing, about 2 weeks ago I was sick. I am feeling a whole lot better. My co-host Marcia, my mom, is at the tail end of her cold. The last thing to go is the cough. And so that's why if you hear her coughing throughout this episode, just like in part 2, that's the reason why. So just to be forewarned, you guys. So hopefully next time when Marcia and I do a podcast together or a new video, she'll be 100%. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So Mom, are you ready to start episode 17, talk about the last 2 shows?
Yes, I am.
All right, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 17, part 3, aka the final part of our Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2009 history video / podcast. So, we're going to start with the first show that was located in the Terminator 3D stunt show building. Now, when we first heard about the show, I was really excited. And then at the time, you didn't see the movie, and we sat down and watched it before we went to it, and you became a fan of the movie.
Yes, I did.
So, Universal, this was the only year they ever did it. I know several years Orlando has done it, and the 2 years that I went to Orlando in 2013 and 2015, they did have the show, and anytime I could see it at the theme park or, at the movies or anything, I will see it. I'm a huge fan of this movie. Ladies and gentlemen, the first show that we're going to talk about is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, A Tribute. So, Mom, what did you think about them announcing it, Mom? After you saw the movie, you were like, all right, we got to see it, and we saw it multiple times.
I think we saw it like 3 times that night.
We saw it more.
More than that.
We saw it all 10 nights.
Yes. I was excited. A new show coming for Halloween Horror Nights that year. I was very excited. And we'll talk about our reactions after, but I was excited about seeing it.
So, really quick, just a history. If you guys don't know, what the Rocky Horror Picture Show is, it was originally a play that was in London that starred Tim Curry as Frankenfurter, and then they made it into a movie in 1975, and then Fox in 2016 did a TV movie that starred I can't remember the guy's name, but it starred I can't remember the girl's name. I'm going blank. Victoria Justice as Janet. That's who it is, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I saw that version too, so I was really excited. So let's get into it. So as we did mention, it was in the Terminator 3D show building. So here's the description. A quote phenomenon. Now Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood pays tribute to the mad scientist Frankenfurter and all the favorite transvestite in a brand new production. Now this is the thing, and this is the only time that they have ever said it for a show. Sorry, no costumes or props allowed. They don't usually allow costumes and props for Halloween Horror Nights when you go to the event. But especially because there was a huge fan of Rocky Horror Picture Show fans that were going to come to this year's event in 2009 because of Rocky Horror Picture Show. They wanted to make sure people didn't dress up as their characters. So that's the reason why they put that warning label.
And I think also they think that's the cast
Bingo.
of the show.
That's another reason too.
That's what I'm thinking now.
That's another reason too, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, let's get to the show because they, in my opinion, they did the best scenes from the movie. They didn't do all of the scenes from the movie, but they picked the best ones. And I think the total of the show was like a 30-minute show.
I would say 45 minutes.
No, it was like 30.
Okay.
It was 30.
I didn't know how long. I thought it was 45.
Well, okay, if you count the pre-show, then yeah, it's about 45. But if you went and did the actual show, it was about 30. Yeah. So, yeah. So, here it is. In the pre-show room, before you get to the main auditorium, an actress dressed as Magenta. And if you guys don't know who Magenta is, she is the maid of the show. And then her brother Riff Raff is the butler. And then, of course, Frankenfurter is the mad scientist. And then you have Brad and Janet, who are just a couple that get stuck at the castle for one night, and then crazy things happen. So, And then you have Columbia, who is a bitch. So, gives you the backstory of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. For anyone that didn't know it, then you head into the main auditorium for the full show. Also, this is the first time that I've ever noticed where they had props that you could buy in the pre-show area. And I remember we did buy some of those props.
We did, didn't we?
But then they got lost a long time ago.
We don't even know what happened to them.
And then after the entire audience is sitting in the seats that you would sit for the Terminator show, so I should say as the audience is getting to their seats, they're playing the first song from the movie, which is called Science Fiction Double Feature. That's kind of like the intro. That's kind of giving you the story. It's talking about Frankenfurter and his creation. They're talking about Brad and Janet. So, that kind of ties in. And then when everyone is finally seated, they do the first part of the show, which is the first scene/show they do is Damn It, Janet. And it's basically where Brad is basically asking Janet to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then throughout the show, they play different clips from the movie to kind of tie in with the songs that they are playing. They also, throughout the show, they have the narrator from the movie giving you the backstory to go along as well. So I thought that was kind of neat too.
That was neat because you get the backstory of it also.
Yeah. So then, the next scene/song that they do is called Over at the Frankenstein Place, is where in the movie and in the stage play, the car has a flat tire and they're trying to find someone to call for a tow, and they see a light and it's Dr. Frankenfurter's place, and that's where the entire cast of the show is on stage. You have Magenta, you have Riff Raff, you have Columbia, who is the bitch, you have Janet, who is the slut,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's when you
all the cast of characters,
except for Frankenfurter or the person that plays Rocky, who is a creature that Frankenfurter is creating, and we'll meet him shortly. So after that, they do the famous song, which is the Time Warp, which is the party scene. Yes.
That was a good one.
That was a good...
I liked that one.
That was a good one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we are finally introduced to Frankenfurter in the song Sweet Transvestite.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next song and scene that they do is Swords of Damlet, which is the creature song where basically Frankenfurter creates Rocky. And that's the creature.
I remember that one.
That is the creature song. Then the next one they do after that is when the monster gets hurt and Giant is healing his wounds, and she is a virgin. And basically she has sex with the monster. And the song is called Touch Me, Touch Me, Touch Me. Yes.
Yeah, why would she have sex with the monster if she was engaged to Brad?
I have no idea. And then, of course, the next song, basically after Touch Me, Touch Me, they basically don't do this during the show, but just to let people know. Then they do a song called Eddie, where Eddie is dead. And then they do a song called Planet Janet, and Frankenfurter basically freezes Brad. We're also introduced to a character, which is Brad and Janet's professor, which I can't remember that character's name, but he gets frozen, Rocky gets frozen, Janet gets frozen, and then Columbia gets frozen. So then Frankenfurter is putting on this big show, and that's the next scene that the next song and scene that they do, which is Rose to My World, where they get unfrozen. Then the next song and scene that they do is Wild and Untamed Things. Then, after that, we're getting towards the end of the show, where after that scene, we have Riff Raff and Magenta come out and shoot Columbia, Frankenfurter, and Rocky. Then Brad and Janet run off stage because they're going back to their planet. So they use the effect that they use at the end of the Terminator show, where pretty much the seats do drop during the show, like when Terminator blows up Skynet. So they do that effect during the show. And then the narrator comes back on screen to give the final lines from the movie. Then at the end of the show, they do double feature. They do science fiction double feature again, and then the show is over, and that's when the whole cast is singing and dancing. And then they go off stage, and you exit through the Terminator gift shop, and that is the entire show. Mom, so your thoughts on that?
It was a good show. I really enjoyed it. I saw the movie, but this was on the stage. I got more into it on the stage than we were watching the movie, because I was kind of like moving and shaking for the songs.
Yes, you basically got energy from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a really good play.
And really, any seat that you sat in, unless you had someone that was a jerk, that was standing up for a couple of the songs, any seat was good in the theater for that show.
Yes. You could see everything. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully they'll bring it back for Halloween Horror Nights one year.
Someday. We can only hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Really good show. The songs were great. The sets were great.
Everything.
Excellent.
Yes.
James, what's your opinion on it?
I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it in Hollywood, and then, as I said, when we get to Orlando, the 2 years that I went, they did have the Rocky Horror Picture Show both in 2013 and in 2015 at the old Beetlejuice show before they turned that show down. So I'll talk about how it was different from Hollywood, but just talking about the Hollywood one, it was really good. I really did enjoy it. So, really, really good. So, now we're going to move on to Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. It was located in the Fear Factor stage because Fear Factor Live was there from, I want to say, it was there from 2006 to 2008, and then in 2009, that became the Creature from the Black Lagoon show.
Mm-hmm.
So they did use some of the elements from Creature from the Black Lagoon in this version of Bill and Ted. Like the ship that they travel on.
Yes.
And some of the sets were from Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. Okay. So, basically it's, same thing. They make fun of pop culture characters and stuff like that. So, alright. So, the story for this show this year was basically the storyline for this year's Bo and Ted show is a nerd is stealing movie characters right out of movies and trying to make them become friends with him. A nerd that lives in his basement, that's basically what the show was about. As the show began, you got a news video giving you the backstory of the show with the news anchor being Dick Johnson and the reporter named Rob Cox. Of course, they go right to the Dick jokes this year. Then they do the opening dance number that is inspired by Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I have to admit it, I was a big Twilight fan because my mom got me into it, saw the first movie, then immediately read all the books, and then saw every other Twilight movie. How I tricked her to see My Bloody Valentine, she tricked me into seeing Twilight.
Yep, that's true.
So, the first song that they play is from the first Twilight track, and I'm going to try to say it, but I don't know how. It's called Super Meaningful Black Hole and it's by Muse. That's the first part that they play, and then they do a scene where some of the people pretend to get bitten, and then the second half of the opening dance number, they dance to Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People. So the whole opening dance number is Bill and Ted are dreaming about sexy dance vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cuddling each other on stage. So then we get to the start of the actual show. So then Bill and Ted don't realize where they are until they meet the main bad guy, which is the nerd from the opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
The character is named Phil. He used to be just known as Phil, but now he's known as Phil the Ultimate Fanboy, or on his World of Warcraft profile, Sir Spanks-a-Lot. I don't know. They're just doing those jokes. I don't know. He basically drugged Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted helped destroy their booth and bring movie characters straight to his basement. So basically, we're supposed to be in his basement.
It really looked like his basement.
Then he gives the plot of why he's doing it, because he's sick of Hollywood tormenting his favorite characters with bad sequels and remakes. That is all true. Hollywood does do that, so,
They do. I admit to that, too.
So then, the machine he flies in, then he says his machine has one flaw, which is a fan of Twilight, and then we go right into a Twilight sequence. The scene that they do from Twilight, and they do multiple scenes from Twilight in this show. So, just be forewarned. The first thing that they do is when Bella knows Edward is a vampire, but in this show, she knows that they pretend that he is gay. Yeah. 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 Any thoughts on that, Mom?
A gay vampire? Never heard of that. Never heard of that.
All right. So then this, was kind of a fun thing too. They had a crazy fangirl, but she was an actress for the show, so she was like a crazy Twilight fan. And it had to be a girl, of course.
Of course, it had to be.
Says you can't be gay, Edward, because I am your biggest fan, and she says that I've seen your movie 200 and something times. I cried when he died in Harry Potter. Of course, if you know, Robert Pattinson was in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire as one of the, Triwizard Tournament people, and he dies at the end. So they make a reference to him and Harry Potter. And then basically the actress that plays Bella, she gets into a fight with the crazy fangirl in a cat fight. Then the crazy fangirl slaps her and runs off stage, tearing one of Edward's shirts, and then Edward says, I'm not gay, and he dances to a happy gay dance to make the joke. So, yeah. So then Phil says, let's steal some more characters, but then Bill and Ted say, no, we want our booth back. You have to stop this, Phil, so they're trying to stop him. Man. So then he says, I thought we were friends, to Bill, and Bill says, don't talk to me like you know me. And then he turns to Ted and says, Ted, I was your best man at the wedding. And Ted pretends to marry Megan Fox, but it's not Megan Fox. It's a Megan Fox impersonator, and of course he is a guy. So that is a joke right there. Then they do more movie reference. I forgot the name of the movie, but then some guy in red shorts. He's like a European, has a European accent or Australian accent, and he does a fashion show with different styles with Bill and Ted. And Bill and Ted say, no, we're not going to use it. And he makes a joke like Bill and Ted already paid for it. So, I don't get the reference to that movie, but they did that.
Yeah, that confused me a little bit.
Yeah, that really did confuse me. But it was a funny scene, but...
It was funny, but I still didn't get it.
Alright, so then moving on. Then they do a reference to Star Trek because they did a remake of Star Trek in 2009. Sorry, that's just my co-host Marsha coughing. So then they do a reference of the Red Star. Before that, they make fun of a Star Trek reference with a creature named Snorlax. It's some creature from
Star Trek.
From Star Trek. I'm not really a huge fan of Star Trek, so these references are going right off my head. Then they do a reference of the Red Star Trek crew member that always gets killed. I do know that. I've seen memes of red crew members that wear the red shirt get killed, so, And then they do another reference to Star Trek from the 2009 movie, where they have the cast come out, and then Phil says, someone wants to talk to you, and then they have an actor pretend to be William Shatner, the original Captain Kirk from the original Star Trek TV show, and he pretends to be at a bar. So then Bill and Ted are trying to stop him from using the machine. He uses the power to reference Beyonce with Single Ladies. The girl that's in the red Star Trek thing, starts to dance to the song, and then he basically controls the rest of the cast to be backup dancers, and then they get locked in a cage, and basically Phil says, it's a shame, Bill and Ted, that we thought we could be friends, and he says, he calls them action figures and said, we're going to play more tomorrow. So then the creature from Star Trek and him go off stage. So, yeah. So I thought that was a funny reference. So, yeah. And then Megan Fox says to Ted, I have enough of you. I want to get a divorce. And she slips through the cage and says, I had a rib removed, and then walks off stage. So, that's a reference. And then I think this is the best reference of the entire show. And it made the audience laugh. So, just be referring. So, when Christian Bale was filming Terminator Salvation, I think it was the lighting director walked across when he was filming a scene, and he went off on the lighting director. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
That was on the news. It was very big. So of course they had to do a reference to that.
Yeah, the lighting director got really pissed.
Yeah. Oh no.
No, Christian Bale got
really pissed. Yeah. Yeah. So they did a reference to that. So then they do a reference to Christian Bale going off on the set of Terminator Salvation, one of my favorite scenes from the entire show. Yeah. Then at the end, he helps him get out of the cage, and Bill is saying thank you, and he says, eat shit, and he does other things that piss him off. So, I thought that was a really funny scene.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Then they do a scene that they make fun of Watchmen, where Bill and Ted have to put their belts together. And then they do a reference to Priceline, because if you don't know, William Shatner used to be a spokesperson for Priceline, or he was known as the Priceline negotiator. Then they had someone dressed up as Wolverine come out. Then they had some other characters from Watchmen come out. Then Phil comes back on stage. And he says, well, I guess I'm outnumbered, so I'm going to get some resources to make it a fair fight. Then they do a reference to the late Billy Madison. If you don't know who Billy Madison was, he was a guy that was a spokesperson for a lot of products like seen on TV. And tragically, he was traveling somewhere, and I think like some luggage hit him in the back of the head when he was traveling on a plane. and he got like a really brain injury and passed away from that. So they did
That's sad.
Yeah. So they did a reference to him. You know. So yes. And then and then they had another person that came out with the project Shamwell, and that person was Shamwell and Billy Madison get into a fight, and then I thought this was another funny thing. A girl came out with the Snuggie.
Snuggie or
Snuggie or Snuggie? Yeah.
I think it was the Snuggie.
So it was something like that.
It was something like that,
and then basically just, they chased after her. And then they had someone come out as Michael Myers. He pretends to be homeless. Then Michael Myers and Wolverine fight, and then they realize they can't kill each other, so then become friends and walk off stage. Then they have some of the characters from the G.I. Joe movie come out. Then Phil basically says, alright, I'm going to bring the ultimate backup, which he brings the greatest Star Trek villain out, and his name is Kong. So then the person playing William Shatner and Kong start screaming at each other. Then the machine does another Twilight sequence, and this one is where Edward is playing the song for Bella, but the joke is it's the Charlie Brown theme song.
That was interesting. Why would they choose Charlie Brown?
I don't know.
Weird.
So then the crazy fangirl comes back, and she says she has a song for him and starts dancing, and then the other guys pretend to give her money like she's stripping, and then as she's dancing, Edward and Bella escape by running off stage. Then she makes a joke that True Blood has better writing and sexier vampires, but then she realized she still loves Edward and runs after him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great sequence.
That was really good.
Yeah. So then one of the G.I. Joe characters says retreat, and his assistant, who is a girl, says we haven't started fighting yet. Then he says damn it, and then say attack, and then everyone starts fighting on stage.
Mm-mm.
Then all the guys stop fighting as one of the girls from the Watchmen and the other one from G.I. Joe start fighting each other, and all the guys start watching for a moment, and then the girls say, if you're not going to take this seriously, then we're not going to be either. And then they both walk away and give the sign to call me later. Then William Shatner and Kong start fighting. So as William Shatner is losing one of the cast from the 2009 Star Trek movie helps him by playing loud music that distracts Kong and hurts his ears, and then William Shatner wins by pushing him off a cliff. I don't get that reference, but there you go. Then the commander asked Phil if we're winning, and he says no. Then he pretends to fight the creature from Star Trek, which I don't even know how to say his name. And then the assistant says that he is one of us, and he looks like an idiot, and then says retreat again, and then hits the ship on stage. Then they do a reference to Johnny Depp's movie where he plays a bank robber, aka John Dillinger.
I remember that scene.
Then the impersonator Megan Fox comes out and says, "Oh my God, is that Johnny Depp?" And then they walk off stage together. Then one by one, the characters start leaving the stage because Phil's plan backfires.
Mm-hmm.
Then Phil realizes when the keyboard is missing, and the machine goes in the safety mode, and it sends a Terminator to kill them, and then Spock, who is from the 2009 movie, comes out and says, "Most illogical, Captain," and pours a bowl of water over the machine. And then the captain from the 2009 movie asks Spock, "Where have you been?" And Spock says, "I've been showing Aurora, something," and it's a joke where they were pretending to have sex.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah. So then, they realize that their booth is destroyed. But then the crazy fangirl asks if Edward was coming back, and Phil says he's not coming. Then he realizes that he and the girl should get a life. But she says, "I love Twilight." And then Ted says, "Don't beat yourself up." Then the fangirl recognizes him. So we finally get the name of the girl at the very end. You find out the girl's name is Joanne.
Okay.
Then Bill does a big saying, "If it wasn't for people like you, then we wouldn't exist." And then William Shatner and the captain from the 2009 says, "Keep Kirk alive." And then 2009 Kirk says, "Sequel, baby."
Mm-hmm.
So they were referencing, if it wasn't for these fans, then none of this would exist.
That is correct.
And then Ted says, "We still don't have a booth." And then Phil says, "Wait a minute, I'm still in control. I don't need that booth. Don't need that machine. All I need to do is believe that I want that booth back." And he says, "Come on, Jill," and the booth comes back on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Then Bill says, "Excellent," and Ted says, "Most triumphant," and Joanna says, "Nice job, Phil," and gives him a kiss. Then it goes into the closing dance number with multiple songs as they play. So then the first song that they play is "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. So then this is the sad part for me. Is they did a tribute to Michael Jackson, because in 2009 is when Michael Jackson passed away. So they did a tribute to him. So the first song that they did was Billie Jean. Then the second song was Beat It. Then the last song was Thriller. Then the next three songs they do in a row, I don't know what those songs are. I tried looking them up. I didn't really know. Then after the three songs they don't know, then they do Poker Face by Lady Gaga. And then the last song that they play is Unknown. And then, of course, the show is over. And then, of course, at the end of the show, Bill and Ted have to do their famous lines to end the show. Be excellent to each other and party on, dude. And then, of course, as tradition for every single Bill and Ted show until it got canceled, which we'll talk about when it got canceled when we get to that year. As the audience is leaving, they're playing the song Underclass Hero by Sum 42. And then that is going to wrap up our Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2009 history videos. So, Mom, your final thoughts on this year's event?
I really liked it. It was a good year. The mazes were amazing. I liked all the mazes. I liked the shows. I liked the scare zones. That whole year was fantastic.
Right.
Your thoughts, James?
I mean, I really did enjoy this year. They had some good mazes. They had really good stuff. I really did enjoy it. So, yeah, so that is all of 2009. Before we wrap up this podcast, Mom, your final thoughts?
This year was fantastic.
Your first full year of going all 10 nights?
My first full year going 10 nights. Really fun, really fantastic, and loved every minute of it.
All right. So I'm going to wrap up the show. I really did enjoy this year. This brings back memories. If you guys want to check out any of the videos for the show or the mazes or the Terror Tram or any of them, you can find it on YouTube. I would highly recommend Sharper Productions. They have done every single year starting from 2009 all the way up to 2023. So you can find 2009 if you guys want to check out the mazes. You can check out the Rocky Horror Picture Show on there, the Bill and Ted Show. So
and the scare zones.
And the scare zones. If you want to check out any of the videos, I recommend going take a look and watching them if you want to see what we were talking about. So yeah. So I want to thank my co-host Marsha.
You're welcome
for joining me again. This was episode 17 of the Jimmypancakes20 show. I don't know when either of us are gonna be back on YouTube or podcast. I'll probably be doing another video sometime next week. I will let you guys know. Definitely, you can follow my mom on her social media sites, which she has a Twitter and Instagram, which I will put a link down at the bottom of this video /podcast. Also, you can follow me on my social media sites. I have a Facebook page, I have a Twitter, and an Instagram. I always post stuff on there once in a while, so you guys can check out those stuff. That's where you can find information of when videos are coming, what new stuff is coming, what I'm doing. So definitely, I recommend following me on my social media sites. Follow my mom and her social media sites. And we'll see you for the next video and podcast coming sometime in the future. Don't know when, but we'll see you again. So this is James, a.k.a. Jimmy Pancakes, signing off. And we'll catch you guys in the next video /podcast sometime in the future. Bye-bye.